The stars shimmered over the Varelian Empire like a crown of fire. The alien capital world of Vatheris stretched beneath a sky filled with glowing rings and drifting light ships. From her high throne, Queen Lyriveth ruled over thousands of systems. Her word was law. Her presence was legend. Yet even legends had doubts they dared not speak aloud. She sat alone in her royal observatory that night, her eyes fixed on the endless galaxy map flickering before her. Countless worlds glowed as small blue lights, each representing a loyal colony of her empire. For centuries, no one had challenged her people's rule. The Varelians were unmatched in technology, their science beyond imagination. They had conquered the void, mastered genetics, and erased entire plagues with a gesture. But among all the knowledge preserved in their archives, there was one story that always returned, one that the queen had forbidden her court from discussing. The legend of the humans. They were said to be an extinct species that once lived on the edge of the Milky Way. According to old data fragments, they had fought wars beyond reason, survived storms that no other race could have endured, and even stood against forces far greater than themselves. But no one had ever proven they were real. For the Varelians, humans were nothing more than campfire tales, creatures of passion and myth. Fragile beings who supposedly defied gods and empires alike. Lyriveth had grown up hearing those stories. Her tutors had laughed at them. Impossible, they said. Humans were too emotional, too impulsive. No such race could ever rise to power. And Lyriveth had agreed. How could such weak beings have done anything of importance? Her empire was built on reason and control, not heart and chaos. But then came the reports. Ships vanished on patrol. Stations stopped responding. Whole colonies silent. The sectors near the outer rim began to speak of strange energy signatures. Fleets sent to investigate never returned. Her admirals called it rebellion. Her ministers called it malfunction. Yet, among the frightened whispers of the lower soldiers, one word appeared again and again. Human. At first, Lyriveth ignored it. She thought it was nonsense. Her empire was too vast, her science too advanced. There was no room for ghosts. But when a transmission reached her palace directly, one that no translator could identify, she felt the first crack in her certainty. It was a voice. Rough, deep, speaking a language unknown to her people. The tone carried calm confidence, not fear. Her linguists studied it, ran every program, matched every syllable. Finally, after many sleepless hours, one of them came trembling to her. "Your Majesty," he said softly. The voice matches an extinct archive pattern. Human standard language. The queen had laughed. "That is impossible," she said. "Those are stories." But deep inside, a small part of her wasn't so sure anymore. Days later, she boarded her flagship, the Seraphine, to visit the site of the last destroyed colony. Her council advised against it. "Your Majesty," one general warned, "if these attacks are real, your presence may endanger the entire royal line." But she silenced him with a single glance. "I will see the truth myself," she said. "An empire that rules by fear does not last. An empress who hides is not fit to reign." The Seraphine was the pride of the Varelian fleet, a colossal vessel that glowed with silver light and moved silently through hyperspace. Lyriveth stood at the viewing deck as the stars stretched into white lines. Her mind wandered to the mysterious voice. It had spoken only 7 words before the transmission ended. "You are not alone. We remember still." Each time she replayed it, she felt something strange stir within her, feeling she couldn't name. Was it curiosity or fear? When the ship finally dropped from warp, the world below was silent. The colony of GalacticPrime, once filled with millions, was nothing but ashes. Buildings half sunk in molten rock, communication towers broken, air thick with dust. No life signs, no movement. It looked as if time itself had stopped there. "Scan for survivors," Lyriveth ordered. "Anything alive?" Her commander bowed. "Yes, my queen." As the crew began their search, strange readings appeared on the monitors. Metallic fragments. Burned machines. And near the center of the city, Something unusual in energy signaled to old. Too raw to belong to any known race. Her science minister frowned. Primitive radiation output, he said. Fusion, residued handmade technology. No one uses this anymore. Lyravet's gaze hardened. Show me. The dropship descended through gray clouds and landed near the ruins. The wind howled through cracked streets. Statues of Varelian founders lay shattered, their faces lost to time. The queen stepped out, her guards forming a circle around her, each wearing reflective armor that shone under the twin suns. But even the guards seemed uneasy. The silence was unnatural. Then they saw a craft half buried in the dust. It was small, angular, built from thick plates of alloy, scorched and old. Strange symbols were carved near the side. Lyravith brushed away the dust and froze. The markings were in an unfamiliar script, yet one word stood out among the rest. Earth, her heart beat faster. This cannot be, she whispered. Suddenly one of her guards shouted, movement. Weapons turned instantly toward the shadowed ridge beyond the wreck. Lyravith raised her hand. Hold fire, she said. Let me see. From the smoke and sand, a figure emerged, tall, broad, covered in a layer of dust and worn armor, unlike any Varelian design. He moved slowly, one hand resting on a strange metal rod slung across his back. His face was uncovered, his eyes sharp and alive. They were not the silver eyes of her people, they were human. Brown, deep, steady. Lyravith felt her breath catch. For a moment, the world seemed to still. He stopped a few steps away, his boots sinking slightly in the ash. Then he spoke, his voice low, tired but calm. You don't have to be afraid. No one moved. The guards looked to their queen. Lyraveth's mind raced. Her translators struggled to keep up, decoding the unknown language through ancient files. Then, through the earpiece, the words repeated in her tongue. You don't have to be afraid. She stepped forward slowly. Identify yourself, she commanded. He tilted his head slightly, studying her face. Name's Aaron Holt, he said. Confederate Expeditionary Force. You're not supposed to be here. Her soldiers whispered among themselves. The queen ignored them. Confederate, she repeated. That term is ancient. Gave a faint smile. Yeah, so am I, apparently. For the first time in her long reign, Lyravith didn't know what to say. They took him aboard the Seraphine. Her scientists scanned his armor. His blood, his DNA, every result confirmed it. Human, an impossible species. From an age so old that most of her empire's stars hadn't even been charted yet. Lyravith watched through a glass wall as he sat calmly in the observation chamber. No fear, no aggression. Just quiet curiosity as he looked around at the alien technology. Her advisors demanded that he be imprisoned or studied further, but she silenced them. He is not a threat, she said. He is a mystery. Later that night, she entered the chamber alone. Aaron looked up. You're the leader, he said simply. I am Queen Lyravith of the Varelian Empire, she replied. You claim to be human? That species is extinct, he chuckled softly. Extinct, huh? Guess I missed the funeral. Her expression didn't change. Your kind were myths, she said. Stories told to frighten children. Funny, he said, leaning back. Where I come from, your kind were the stories. She frowned. You mean the Varelians? He nodded. Tall, silver-eyed beings who conquered the stars. Guess both legends turned out to be true. For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Lyravith's mind was torn between disbelief and fascination. His body language, his tone, his calm presence, none of it matched what she expected from a lost primitive species. There was something steady in him, something ancient yet alive. How did you survive? She finally asked. He shrugged. Cryo chamber malfunction. I went to sleep before a mission. Woke up to a galaxy that forgot us. Forgotten, she repeated quietly. And yet here you stand. Yeah, he said. Funny thing about humans, we don't stay gone for long. Her gaze softened, just a little. You speak with confidence. He looked at her. Where I'm from, confidence kept us alive. Over the following days, Lyrivith's ship drifted above the silent world. She ordered her crew to restore the human's craft. She wanted to understand him, his technology, his story. But something deeper was happening. Each conversation between them pulled her closer to something she couldn't name. It wasn't attraction, it was recognition. He reminded her of something her species had lost long ago: simplicity, courage, the power of belief. He told her of the old Earth, of oceans and storms, of nights under one sun and moon. He spoke of the wars humans had fought not for conquest, but for survival. He described how they learned to stand together even when the universe seemed too big for them. His words painted pictures of a world that lived through heart, not through data. Her people measured worth through intellect and rank. His people measured it through endurance. She found that difference strange yet beautiful. Sometimes, when he spoke, her guards listened quietly at the doors, forgetting their duties. The human's voice carried something rare, a calm certainty that it had no crown to command respect. And then came the question she feared most. "Your Majesty," her minister said one morning, "should we not declare him a danger? If he belongs to a lost military order, there may be more of his kind. If he is a spy," Lyrivith turned sharply. "He is no spy. He is proof." The sky above Solith Prime was burning with light. The enemy fleets had surrounded Queen Lyriveth's flagship, the Seraphine. Thousands of hostile ships glowed red in the darkness, their weapons locked, waiting for her surrender. Inside the command deck, tension filled the air like a storm about to break. Her generals shouted orders, but their voices trembled. The screens flashed with incoming warnings. Energy levels dropping. Shields unstable. No reinforcements near enough to reach them in time. The Varelian Empire, proud and powerful, stood on the edge of defeat. Aaron Holt stood near the viewport, his hands behind his back, calm as stone. He looked out at the stars that had once been home to stories, not battles. "You've got a problem," he said quietly. Lyrivith turned toward him. "This is not your fight." He gave a small smile. "You let me aboard your ship. That makes it my fight." Her eyes narrowed. "You are one man. I've been worse odds," he said softly. She didn't answer. The ship shook as the first warning shot hit the outer shield. The glow outside flickered blue, then dimmed. The enemy commander's message came through the main display, a tall alien with harsh eyes and a voice. "Queen Lyriveth," he said, "you hide a forbidden relic, a human. Hand him over, and your life will be spared." Her officers turned to her. "Majesty, we must comply," one pleaded. "If we resist, we'll lose everything." Lyriveth stared at the screen, then slowly rose from her throne. Her silver cloak caught the faint glow of the failing lights. "Tell him," she said, her voice cold and steady, "that the Varelian queen does not trade lives for fear." The bridge went silent. Aaron met her gaze, impressed. The enemy voice laughed through the speakers. "Then die with your myth." The sky exploded. The Seraphine shook violently as plasma fire struck its hull. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Engineers ran to seal ruptures. Guards rushed to the defense stations. The ship's advanced AI tried to respond, but it was too slow. The enemy overwhelmed them with sheer numbers. Lyrivith gripped the railing, trying to stay steady. "Return fire," she shouted. "Deploy shield wings." Her fleet answered with blinding light beams cutting through space, but they were losing ground. The enemy ships swarmed like locusts. Every hit drained more power. Every minute, another Varelian cruiser vanished in flame. Aaron moved quickly, his steps sure and focused. "You've got too many automated defenses," he said over the chaos. "When they fail, you've got nothing left." One officer snapped at him. "You know nothing of our systems, human." Aaron ignored him, kneeling beside the power grid console. He studied it like he had built it himself. "You're feeding too much energy to shields that can't hold. You're cooking your own core." He turned to Lyrivith. "You trust me?" For a second, the queen hesitated. Then she nodded. "Do what you must." Without another word, Aaron moved to the control node, ripped off an access panel, and began rerouting energy manually. Sparks flew as he worked. His hands were steady even when the ship rocked again from another hit. Sweat ran down his face, but his voice stayed calm. Drop outer shields. Focus on inner layers. Divert weapons to manual targeting. You've got to fight like you mean it, not like a machine. Lyriveth watched him, astonished. He wasn't trained in their technology, yet somehow he understood it. Every order he gave made sense. Her crew hesitated at first, then followed. Gradually, the panic on the bridge turned into organized movement. The lights stabilized. The engines roared back to life. Aaron looked at her. Now, give me access to your hangar. Why? She asked. He smiled faintly. Because sometimes one man makes the difference. Minutes later, Aaron stood inside the hangar. Facing the remains of his ancient craft, the small human ship they had recovered from the surface. It was patched, rusted, and half-broken. But inside it still slept a few pieces of old human engineering, simple, durable, and made to last. He climbed into the pilot's seat, flipped a few switches, and the engine coughed to life with a low growl. Lyrivet's voice came through the communicator. Aaron Holt, what are you doing? He smiled to himself. Making sure your story doesn't end today. You cannot face them alone, she said sharply. Maybe not, he replied. But I can remind them why your legend started. Before she could stop him, the small ship launched from the hangar, cutting through the fire-filled void. Compared to the massive enemy vessels, it was a tiny spark. But it moved fast, faster than anything built in the current age. Its thrusters flared bright blue as it weaved through laser fire. The enemy fleet didn't understand. Their sensors barely detected the craft. It had no advanced cloaking, no neural core, nothing to hack or track. Just raw speed and instinct? Aaron smiled as he gripped the controls. Old Earth tech, he whispered. Still kicking, sighed the Seraphine. Lyriveth watched in disbelief. Her officers gasped as the small ship tore through the enemy lines. One cruiser after another turned its guns to follow. But it moved unpredictably, sharp turns, sudden dives, impossible maneuvers. Each pass left a trail of chaos. Enemy ships collided, trying to hit it. Their formation broke apart. He's drawing their fire, a general shouted. He's giving us an opening. Lyriveth's eyes widened. Then we take it. All ships focus fire on the flagship. Follow the human's lead. The fleet obeyed. For the first time in the battle, the Varelians fought not with cold precision, but with heart. Their formations shifted. Their timing matched his movements like instinct. They no longer hid behind shields. They fought like living beings. Aaron dove straight toward the enemy flagship. The massive vessel loomed before him, 10 times his size, weapons glowing like suns. His ship rattled under the pressure. The alarms screamed, but he didn't slow down. He smiled faintly, almost amused. Guess some stories are worth dying for. He released a burst of ancient explosives, physical missiles, small but dense, built from the days before plasma warfare. They hit the flagship's power relay, and for a moment, the great ship faltered. Its lights flickered. Its shields dropped. Now, Lyriveth shouted, all fire on target. The Varelian fleet unleashed everything. The enemy flagship erupted in a wave of light that spread across the sky. One by one, the enemy ships lost command and began to retreat. The battlefield fell silent. The Seraphine hovered amid the glowing debris. The Queen stared at the wreckage, her chest rising and falling. Then her gaze snapped to the radar. The small human ship was drifting, motionless inside the cockpit. Aaron was slumped against the seat, smoke rising from the panels. His ship had taken too much damage. He could barely breathe. The oxygen levels dropped fast. He laughed quietly, coughing. Always the hard way, he muttered. Seraphine to pilot, came Lyriveth's voice, urgent. Respond. He pressed the come button weakly. Still here? Stay awake, she ordered. I'm sending a team. Don't bother, he said softly. You won. That's what matters. You are not allowed to decide that, she said, her tone sharp but trembling. You are not finished. He smiled faintly. You sound like a human. The line went quiet for a moment. Then her voice came again, softer. You said your kind never stayed gone for long? You were right. He closed his eyes, listening to her voice fade into the static, Hours later, he woke up in the ship's medbay, his chest wrapped in medical film. The room was bright and quiet. Lyravis sat beside the bed, her crown set aside on the table. She looked less like a ruler and more like someone who had just seen her world change. "You should be dead," she said calmly. "Yeah," Aaron murmured. "Bad habit of mine. You saved an empire," she said. "You saved me," shook his head. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you what courage looks like." For a long time, she said nothing. Then, almost in a whisper, the word human. "It no longer sounds like a myth to me," he smiled. "That's because it never was." Days turned into weeks. News of the battle spread through the galaxy. Every Varelian world repeated the same story of how their queen fought beside a forgotten warrior from a lost world. The myth of humanity came alive again. Scholars reopened old archives. Children played games pretending to be human heroes. The Empire, once proud and cold, began to change. On the day of the great ceremony, Lyravith stood before her people in the Grand Hall of Stars. Aaron stood beside her. Wearing simple black armor, polished but unadorned, he hated attention, but the queen insisted. "My people," she said, her voice echoing through the hall. "We once believed that courage was a thing of the past, that humanity was a story made to comfort the weak. But now we know better. Legends live not in books, but in hearts that refuse to give up." The crowd roared. Lyravith turned toward Aaron. "From this day forward, the word human shall mean unbroken. Let it remind us what it means to stand." He looked at her, quietly grateful, then gave a small nod. "You're learning fast." That night, after the celebration ended, they stood alone on the observation deck. The stars glowed brighter than ever. The war was over. Peace had returned, fragile but real. Lyravith looked out at the endless galaxy. "What will you do now?" she asked. Aaron folded his arms. "Find out what's left of my people. Maybe they're out there somewhere, and if they are not," he smiled faintly, "then I'll make sure they're remembered." She nodded slowly. "You already are." The silence that followed was soft and peaceful. Two beings from different worlds stood side by side, united by something stronger than history respect. After a moment, Aaron turned to leave. "Take care of your people,"